So I had no idea this was the last chapter. Like, none. A woman's reaction to the mystery method by Mystery with Chris Odom. So yeah, no idea that this was the last chapter. I think it might have been because there's a very sizable glossary at the very back of the book. So you're reading, and there's like still this thick pile of pages left over. And then at some point you get to the end of a chapter and it's like, well, that's it. And after that it's all glossary. Chapter 9, Midgame and Endgame. That's one thing that's kind of funny. Like, as the book goes, the structure of it is like really, really focused on the beginning stages, walking up and talking to the girl, striking up a conversation with the girl, getting into her comfort zone just a little bit so that you can kind of start to interact with her like she's a normal person and you're a normal person, and kind of breaking down that kind of outer layer of defenses so that you can kind of interact with her normally. As you get further along in the process, like from meeting to sex, the chapters get more and more condensed, and what you're supposed to do increasingly just kind of becomes more condensed, which I'm not going to criticize him on because that's realistic. Like, the more you get to know someone, the more you kind of have to treat them as an individual. So that you can't just go through some like little cookie cutter, here are 9 things that you can do to break the ice with a girl, versus, well, now that you know the girl, you can't just have step A, stroke her cheek at exactly this minute, or step B, reach out and hold her hand at exactly this minute. You have to kind of feel her out and get to know her as a person. So I can see how he structured it that way. It still was a little bit weird to open up the book and then kind of peek ahead to see when the chapter ended and realize that not only was the chapter ending, the book was ending as well. Huge glossary in the back. Huge. I have also discovered that the most emotionally rewarding long-term relationships often develop into sexual ones within a week, sometimes within as little as a few days. This has not been my experience. Um, but then again, I've only had one really long-term rewarding relationship. So, still not my experience though. I've had, yeah, definitely not my experience. Not my parents' experience either. Like, I guess it might just be a me thing and a family thing, but I still think that the girls who really, really want you and really, really think they want to keep you for the long haul take a little bit more time to weigh you out. And in doing so, demonstrate that they have the willpower not to just hop into bed with anybody. But again, that's old school dating. So for all I know, that's just completely outdated. I still think it takes time. Like, you don't want it to be taking time because she's like putting it off and leading you on, but if you got something going and the two of you have a lot of chemistry and you're just talking and you're interested in each other's conversations and you're so busy building up a really strong friendship, then, you don't have to push the sex right away. Focus on the friendship, focus on building that rapport, make sure that little ember of passion is burning underneath the surface, but build the rapport first, that just, I seriously think that helps. So there's this story that he tells about meeting an old man in a mall, and the old man tries to strike up a conversation with him, and he's talking at him and talking at him, and he keeps kind of trying to let the guy know that he's not interested in him, but the guy just won't take a hint and keeps talking at him. And I think a lot of people have had conversations like that. Like, most of us have had somebody walk up and just try to talk to us about something we absolutely don't care about, and they just won't take the hint when we're like, "Hey, go away. I'm trying to just sit here for a minute." And he talks about how that's very similar to what women experience when guys start hitting on them, or even when guys walk up to them. Like, the guy might absolutely have no interest whatsoever in hitting on them. The guy might be very gay, but when a guy walks up, that's what women are expecting. And it's actually a really good story, and I think it's a really good way of relating to men in a way that men will understand what it's like to be a woman and have people who walk up and start hitting on them. It's like, I was happy, I was having fun, I was minding my own business, and then all of a sudden you're coming up to me with this story that you're telling me that has nothing to do with what I'm interested in. And then imagine adding on to that, "Hey, let's go out sometime." It's like, no. Don't make me be aggressive and tell you to go away. Like, you should take the hint. So it was a really good story, and it really kind of explained the thought process I think a lot of women go through when men approach them, which is kind of why I agree with his methods, especially like in the first half of the book where he's, telling you how to walk up and say hello to a woman or walk up and introduce yourself to a woman. You kind of need some of that just to break through that hard outer shell of, okay, are you just going to annoy me? Like I'm on guard now because you've walked up. Are you here to annoy me to the point that I have to tell you to go away? So, yeah, it was a good story, and I thought it was cool that he included that. You shouldn't eject from the set immediately after getting the phone number. Stay around and talk for a few more minutes afterward. Otherwise, you play into the pattern of all the other guys she flaked on who got her number immediately before parting. I think that's actually pretty good advice. From the girl's point of view, it's very easy to look at it and wonder, okay, he's leaving now. Did he just talk to me to get my phone number? And if you stick around and chat with her just a little while longer, like you actually want to hang out and chat with her and converse with her instead of just getting that phone number and going, it's a very subtle gesture that really convinces a woman that you actually do want to spend time talking to her. So I thought that was kind of cool that he mentioned that. Granted, these days all we do is text, but same deal. A note on flakes. Often you can't even get the girl on the phone. Big deal. Maybe it's buyer's remorse. Maybe her friends talked her out of it. Maybe her cat just died. Yeah, sometimes it's just life stuff happening. Like, don't be discouraged if a girl who seemed really into you doesn't answer the phone when you call her later. Sometimes life stuff happens. And maybe she did look at it and say, hey, I liked this guy. He was fun. He was entertaining, but he wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And sometimes your cat dies. Sometimes your car breaks down. Sometimes you get called into work at like the weirdest hour. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll go and, do this job because somebody's got to do it. And someone called in sick. Like I had a job where they were always calling me into work because people were always calling in sick because it was a miserable job. And so I had no social life, so I was always coming into work. It was horrible. But yeah, don't take it personally. It's not necessarily going to be a personal thing. Sometimes life just happens. In the interests of practice and rapid improvement, when in doubt, attempt to escalate. Even if you're wrong, it will still improve your calibration. I kind of agree with this, and it's kind of scary because I can understand how, like, if you're trying to push things a little too far, how as a girl I would look at them and go, oh my god, just go away. But I think he's right. There are way too many guys out there in the world who are like sitting there looking at the girl thinking, I don't know, should I try to kiss her right now, should I not try to kiss her right now? And they get too bogged down in the, oh, should I, maybe I shouldn't take the risk, ooh, it's too scary, what if I make a mistake, what if I screw this up? Just kiss her. Just kiss her already. And if it doesn't work, you figure it out really quickly. And the next time you get into that situation, and you have to operate on the assumption that there will be a next time. The next time you get into that situation, it's like, okay, last time I pushed it too far too fast. Now I know. And so when he says in the interest of practice and rapid improvement, yeah, that's one way to really learn and grow. Make mistakes, be willing to try new things and make mistakes with things. And I mean, it's a when in doubt thing. If you're sitting there wondering to yourself, should I try to move forward a little bit? Try to move forward just a little bit and see what happens. Like don't go from 0 to 60, but just a little tiny bit. And little can be very subtle. It can be, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about Kino escalation. You can always just do a mild escalation. You can always touch her a little bit and see if she pulls away, or see if she kind of moves into it, see if she seems welcoming of the touch. And that's a great way to get a lot of nonverbal cues from her without any hard nose or any hard body language or any, I just don't want this. It's a great way to get very subtle indications from somebody of whether they're interested in more touch from you or not interested. And so, yeah, no, try it out. Be daring, be bold. Don't go crazy with it, but if you're sitting there and you're the kind of person who looks at it and goes, I don't know if I should try this. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to do. Try it. And be adventuresome. Have fun. And if it doesn't work out, okay, try it with someone else. If she's that completely turned off, try it with somebody else. You'll have more luck. Last minute resistance. Every woman has hardwired into her head a behavioral circuit that works to protect her from getting pregnant by a man who has no intention of sticking around to help raise the child. I don't know how true that is. I just don't know. I don't know if that's it. I don't know if that's exactly right. One of the things that I've kind of, there's just this vibe I've gotten from Mystery sometimes. He understands how human interaction works very, very well, but he understands it primarily from a male perspective. And anything that he understands about the female perspective is either stuff that he's kind of jumped to as a conclusion or stuff that women have told him. And women are not necessarily going to be the best at explaining to him how it works. So there have been a few times that he's said things about how women think. I'm thinking particularly the one that comes to mind is negs. How when he negs a woman, she thinks, oh, he's displaying higher value than me, so I need to prove to him that I'm worthy of him. That's not how I look at negs. When my husband gives me a neg, I assume he's being playful because he's got a twinkle in his eye and he's kind of smiling just at the corners of his mouth a little bit. And he gives me one quick shot and then he kind of backs off to see what I'll do. And it's like, oh, you're playing with me. Awesome. So I don't think that Mystery always fully understands what's going on under the surface with women. And I look at Last Minute Resistance and it's like, is that really exactly what's going on under the surface with women? And so then I have to go back and think back of over all of the Last Minute Resistance situations that I've had in my life. And usually if I'm experiencing last minute resistance, it's like, okay, just no. I've had fun with you. I've enjoyed flirting with you. I've been kind of getting to know you, but you're pushing things too far, too fast, and I'm just not into it. That's it. I have had occasions with last minute resistance, particularly when I was like a virgin, because my parents and the local community that I grew up in, so the churchy, really, really born again, hardcore Bible bangers that I grew up around, they told me the whole, a woman is like a piece of tape. You stick the tape onto something and then you pull it off and you stick it onto something else and you pull it off, and you stick it onto something else and you pull it off. And then, after you've used it a few times, it just doesn't have the same stickiness to it. So that's what sex is like, ladies. If you keep sticking on to new men and having sex with new men, you're going to end up like a used up piece of tape. One person actually told me that it was like being toilet paper. Everyone likes clean, fresh, white toilet paper. Nobody wants dirty, brown, used toilet paper. And that's what your virginity is, ladies. Oh my God. Like, do you know how terribly unhelpful that is? Let's just ignore for a moment that some women get raped while they're still virgins, because that totally happens, and I've met women that that's happened to. Imagine what they must feel like being told that they're about as good as used up toilet paper. Gee, thanks. And also, I found that when I actually went out into the sexual marketplace, everyone was having sex except for me. And it was like, okay, I want the guys who are having the sex a heck of a lot more than I want the guys who are preaching to me about how virginity is so awesome. Namely because none of these guys are attractive to me, but those guys over there are more attractive, so I'm going to go where they are. And, just to fit in culturally, eventually I ended up having sex with people, and it was one of those things where before I got into that, everyone I was hanging out with was having sex. Everyone I was interacting with was having sex. And so I get into these situations where I'd be hanging out with a guy, we'd be having fun, we'd kind of get a little bit close and kind of start snuggling a little bit. And it was like, this is awesome, I'm having a great time. And then all of a sudden he's got a boner and it's like, I didn't sign up for this. And so before I started actually having, having premarital sex, the idea of having sex with somebody, unless they were like absolutely the one, the guy who stole my heart, and I didn't meet that guy until, how long have I been with my husband now? About a decade, not quite a decade. So until about a decade ago, I hadn't met that guy. Anyway, in the early days, back before I kind of realized that, sex was just part of life. And even after I did, it's not like I was having sex with every guy who wanted to have sex with me. Like, there were plenty of times I'd start hanging out with a guy. We'd go to his place, we'd watch some movies, it would be really fun. We'd start cuddling on his couch, and it would be like, this is so relaxing. I could do this for a long time, just sitting on a couch, cuddling with somebody who's warm and comfortable. Like, I lived in a frigid, icy wasteland. Like, warm and comfortable means a lot over there. And it's like, this is something I could get into the rhythm of this for a while. And the next thing you know, he's starting to yank off his clothes, and it's like, whoa there, buddy. No. So yeah, it's that. I those are my memories of last minute resistance, and I knew some guys who handled it really, really well, and I was always very appreciative, because I knew one guy in particular who was a pickup artist. I had a pickup artist in particular who knew me when I was still a virgin, and we got into that point where he was starting to make moves toward end game sorts of stuff, and I was like, nope, can't do this. And he was so sweet about it. Like, no pressure, don't worry about it, we don't have to do this. And it was like, oh God, thank you. And I mean, later on I ended up sleeping with him, but at the time it was like, whoa, this whole virgin toilet paper thing is kind of got me a little spooked here. I don't know if I want to be doing this quite yet. And so yeah, it was a very, I was really, really grateful. So yeah, that's my thoughts on last minute resistance. Like, I don't think, and I know that many people have, since this book was written, since mystery was a big thing, and I know it's been a long time since mystery was a big thing, many people have looked at it and said, you shouldn't have to break down last minute resistance. You shouldn't have to struggle with last minute resistance. If there's last minute resistance, just send her away, pass, not interested, don't want to deal with this. Don't be rude about it, because some of them are people like me who you will later eventually end up having sex with. But just take it for granted that if a girl's giving you last minute resistance, she's got shit in her own head she's got to figure out. And that's not your problem, and that's not your business. Just move on. I know that with my husband, there wasn't a moment of last minute resistance. I mean, I don't know if that's part of the circuitry, looking at you and saying, okay, do you really want to proceed with this course of action? Is this really a man you wish to breed with? It could be, could very well be. It could be that's what that is, or it could be something completely different. And with mystery, it's kind of hard to tell, because I don't always trust him to have a really good, clear understanding of what's going on inside the woman's head. Play solid game. If your game is tight, last minute resistance will be greatly reduced as an issue. Yup. You shouldn't have to deal with last minute resistance. You shouldn't have to mess with it. You shouldn't have to muck with it. You definitely should not waste time breaking it down. Don't worry about it. If she's giving you last minute resistance, that's a problem with her, not your problem, not something you should have to deal with. If your game is solid, you should not be getting last minute resistance. If you're still practicing and learning, you might encounter last minute resistance. In that case, just walk away, just act like it's no big deal, and just move on to some other activity and don't worry about it, which can be hard because you might have a raging boner, but you don't want to have to muss around with that stuff. I don't think there's any good that comes from breaking down last minute resistance. And if you read Tomasi's book, interestingly enough, or Tomasi's works, you can go to his blog and read. I think he's got posts on everything, so I wouldn't be surprised if he posts about last minute resistance. It's not worth the hassle. Like, if she doesn't want to have sex with you deep down inside, and she's hesitating to have sex with you because she doesn't really want it, how good do you think the sex is going to be? It's not worth it. So, yeah, practice solid game, get really, really good at getting a woman's attention and basically seducing a woman. If you can do that, she's going to want you. She's going to be chasing after you for sex. You don't have to work at it. So we're finally in the sex part of the chapter, like of the book. We're finally in the sex part of the book, like the part where he talks about how to have sex for the first time with a woman. And it's a very, very short little part of the book. Like the book is, about yay long. And then there's like a 2 or 3 page section on how to have sex with a woman. Yeah, 2 pages. Not even 2 full pages. It's like a page and a half. How to have sex with a woman for the first time. Congratulations, you got there. Like, he has some actually very decent advice here that should go without saying, but I can see how it doesn't always go without saying, so somebody's got to say it. And thank you, Mystery, for doing that dirty, dirty work for us. So here goes. Unless the two of you share a mutually agreed upon interest, save the freaky stuff for later. When you're slowly undressing her for the first time, whisper in her ear how beautiful she looks, bathed in candlelight. Don't ask if she's into anal sex or if you can tie her up to the bedpost. During that first encounter, definitely keep the whips and chains in your toy box. Yeah, that's something that should go without saying. Unless you have some sort of agreed upon kink that the two of you are into. So if you met on an S&M site and got to know each other through like some S&M group, because there are like BDSM get-togethers and groups where everybody with similar interests can get together and, meet other people with similar interests. If you're both furries and you both met at a furry convention, then, that's one thing. But if you're a furry and she's more or less, a normal person, like, say, the teller at the bank that you use, play it down a notch. Make it vanilla the first time. Vanilla is good. Vanilla is a great way to kind of introduce you to her and her to you. That's good advice, Mystery. Thank you for enlightening us all on that one. And I don't mean that entirely sarcastically. There are people who don't know this, which is kind of scary. Anyway, that is the end of the mystery method. Like I said at the beginning, I had no idea this was the last chapter. Everything after this is glossary. There is a brief conclusion that gives me, I didn't really read it. It was some sort of offer for free stuff on his website that I'm not going to use. It was a very technical book. It was like computer programming with sex. And it could get a little bit dry at times. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it did have a tendency to get a little bit dry. And I don't know if that's just the fact that I didn't find it particularly relatable. Like, I can see a guy reading this, particularly a guy who hasn't had a lot of social interaction with women and wants to get better at social interactions with women. And I can see a guy reading this and like taking notes like crazy. Me, it didn't really, it just didn't do it for me. Like, there were several chapters in the middle. Like, the middle was awesome for me because I looked at it, was like, this is fascinating. This is really cool information. It was a lot of information that I could understand that really seemed very interesting to me. But, toward the end, it kind of dropped off again. This last chapter, of course, was, it was everything from getting to know her. It was literally mid-game to end-game. So you've met her, you've kind of broken the ice, you've started a conversation with her, this is all going really well, and you move her to a bedroom and you have sex with her. That's it. It's like, okay, well, that was fast. But it makes sense that it would be structured that way, so that's not a complaint of mine. Because I did not know that this was the end of the chapter, I have not yet ordered the next book for this next review, which is going to be No More Mr. Nice Guy by, I think it's Dr. Robert Glover. I haven't done that yet because I thought we had more chapters and I didn't realize this was the end of the book. which is probably a good thing, because in the time that it takes that book to arrive, I can start working on all of the other video ideas that I've had boiling around in my head. Like, I need to make a video about this, I want to make a video about that, I want to make a video about this other thing. And I haven't had enough time to work on that. Like, I've wanted to work on that, and I literally have not had any time alone to film a video. I'm kind of excited to have a little bit of a break between books, so I can start working on some of these other video ideas, get some of those out there, and then I will get that book. It'll be in the mail very, very soon, and it should be arriving relatively soon as well. So it might be a week or 2 or 3. Shouldn't be longer than that. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of The Mystery Method, and I'll talk to you guys later. When you're slowly undressing her for the first time, whisper in her ear how beautiful she looks, bathed in candlelight. Don't ask her if she's into anal sex, or if you can tie her to her. Don't ask if she's into anal sex, or if you can tie her up to the bedpost. During that first encounter, definitely keep the whips and chains in your toy box.